This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 26th of March 2020, and I am DM.
I'm Tuo.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. Uhuru's plan to save jobs declares curfew. In the Daily Nation, Kenya under curfew. And in the Standard, a dose of hope. So this was the address in relation to the address that the president gave yesterday about the relief measures that he will put in place to keep the economy afloat amidst this crisis.
And that's what the Star is telling us. It's giving us actually a breakdown of Uhuru Kenyatta's presser yesterday. Including things like the president said that him and the deputy president would take an 80% pay cut. Cabinet secretaries will take a 30% pay cut. Principal secretaries 20% and CAS is 30%. But he also gave tax relief to employees earning a minimum of 24,000, a pay reduction from 30% to 25%, and many other economic measures. He also gave a classification of the critical essential services that will remain operational during this period. And of course, not forgetting, he instituted a curfew from 5 a.m. to 7 in the evening.
From 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Oh, from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Precisely. So businesses are to shut early. People are to get into their homes unless you are in this list of the classification of critical and essential services.
Absolutely.
And that I think should go a long way. But let me ask, I find this cutting of salaries a really futile thing. Yes, maybe for the president and the deputy president there is political value in it, but compelling your principal secretaries, compelling your cabinet officers as well as chief administrative secretaries, it's really a punishment, especially when they are going to be on the front lines of trying to save the country. People like Zephaniah Mbogwa, I don't imagine he's a wealthy fellow. Now you have told him, take a 30% pay cut. Well, you know what he's going to do? He's going to release one or two of his gardeners, his drivers, and he's going to stop sending money to a few of the people that he sends money to support.
Up country. Perhaps he should have made it voluntary.
That's,
I don't agree with this.
Guys, allow me to disagree. See, number one, I don't think we were the audience of this, because if we were the audience, he would have told us where this money would have gone to. This Uhuru Kenyatta is a political animal, and therefore for him to be seen in good light by the masses, I mean, let him take a pay cut. I don't think Uhuru Kenyatta needs 1.8 million shillings a month. I don't think William RUTO needs 1.6 million shillings a month.
Why not?
For the purposes of of optics, let them take a pay cut. You see,
theoretically speaking, these are not people who are supposed to be earning monies from anywhere else.
Look, Jonathan.
Theoretically speaking,
you spoke about.
So you can't say that.
You spoke about Zephaniah Mbogwa, who has a Shambo boy, and you see, guys, in the greater scheme of things, the informal sector in this country employs over 85% of Kenyans, right? What CSS, PSS take home, if PSS and CSS are taking about 30% pay cuts, they'll barely feel it. I'm sure, that's okay for them. And even if they fire their Shamba boys, their Shamba boys will be employed by other people. It's just
nobody is employing anyone now. I can actually state that quite confidently. But I really want to believe that in the shadows, in the background, the government is actually coming up with a plan of relief, an economic relief plan for people who would be adversely affected should we get to a total lockdown?
And
I think that's why we are leading.
That's what I want us to get into, right? We have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. Are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, finally thoughtful, or just plain lazy? So I think we take the Star and the Daily Nation together. They're basically talking about the same thing. I think we toss the Star immediately and maybe put the Daily Nation in the parking bay as we discuss the economic measures.
Absolutely. And I think Uhuru Kenyatta would not have escaped this. He needed to address economic concerns of Kenyans.
Precisely.
So yesterday he came up with a raft of measures that would be able to cushion Kenyans. And allow me to go through them. First, he said that anyone earning less than 24,000 bob is not going to be taxed a cent, right? And I think that is major.
That's great.
That's major. And then he said that other employees who fall in other salary brackets will see their income tax bracket go down from 30% to 25%. In other words, he's telling us, I'll leave you with a little bit more money in your pockets. Third, he said that he's going to reduce VAT from 16%. So Treasury is going to reduce from 16% to 14%. But he also said that the interest rates, and this is with results to the Monetary Policy Committee meeting happening, that interest rates will reduce from 8.25% to 7.25%, an entire 100 basis points. What does this mean? When an economy is going down or slowing down or is going to recession, what you do is exactly what Uhuru Kenyatta did. Tax cuts, reducing interest rates, because the thing you're trying to prop up is something called aggregate demand.
Absolutely.
Aggregate demand can only be propped up by consumption. How do you prop up consumption? By cutting taxes and interest rates.
If I'm a person watching from Kibera, I'm watching the president's presser, what are the things there that I feel are directed to me? Besides the VAT, which probably is not even top of their minds in the Kadogo economy.
Let me tell
what are the things that the president...
Income tax and VAT, when you put them together, are the largest sources of tax revenue to carry, right? Now that means that if the guys in Kibera are not paying income tax, where they pay tax is VAT. So it means they will get cushioned to a level to a certain level of significance.
Remember that remember also that KRA's tax base actually compared to the population is extremely low. So if we're being very honest, a lot of those people are to begin with not paying income tax. Wage earners, the people who I get my 400 bob a day, 300 bob, 700, and I go home. Nobody is consolidating that and taxing it. See?
And I just want to second that point. So I think the measures that he took were really good. I was only disappointed by the extent of the cuts. You know, cutting VAT by 2%, yes, it is something, but I don't think it leaves that much more money in people's pockets. It's great what he's done for those earning below up to 24,000, but really he should have gone a bit further with those who are subjected to the 30% pay as you earn tax.
You see, Jonathan,
these are really the people who who support the rest of the economy, who send money home, who have a gardener, who are going to a petrol station to fuel. So that should have come down to about maybe 15%, maybe even 10%. But maybe he's reserving that for the future in case things get worse.
But speaking of the future, I think that all the pressures going forward should be increasingly, I know we live in a capitalistic economic system, but they should be increasingly socialist to target those people who are going to be extremely affected. He should come with, of course, the macroeconomic outlook, but also, also the very specific things that will alleviate fear or will reduce the chances of descending into social disorder. The thing about capitalism is that inherently it is flawed in that there will always be gross inequality emerging. And those people who are excluded are the ones that should be spoken to going forward.
You see, there's something we said yesterday and the past couple of days. I think Uhuru Kenyatta should take advantage of this crisis. I've been a long proponent of something we call trickle-up economics. And that means you reduce taxes at the lowest level, because what we're doing right now is trickle-down economics. You reduce corporate tax because you think the big corporates and factories will reduce the prices of goods, and that will trickle down to the people. But if you reduce the income tax bracket, for example, you reduce VAT, I think that will enhance what you call disposable incomes in these families that we're speaking about right now, in informal settlements and all that. But I think this is the chance for Uhuru Kenyatta. And maybe going forward, Corona will probably teach us that maybe lower taxes at the lower income levels
You're right.
are the best way to actually prop up the economy.
It's going to teach us a lot of things, including that we need a safety net. We need an economic
Before we
safety
move
net.
on to the cartoons, the political cartoons, what do you make of William Ruto's absence from State House?
I found that interesting.
And in this whole process.
You see, every single head of state you see making a statement during this Corona
Has
era
their number two.
Has their number two behind them. William Ruto is known to be a permanent fixture at State House whenever the president is making important statements like he made yesterday. But yesterday was very interesting to see only 3 CSAs, Mutahi Kagwe, Fred Matiang'i, and Ukur Yatani. And Matiang'i has this, he follows the president wherever he. But you see,
he's practicing social distancing.
Actually, not. He is behaving like the substantial number 2.
I see.
But if I was also on the Raila side, I'll probably be worried what William Ruto is planning, because it's very unusual of him.
It's actually William Ruto that I was saying is practicing social distancing, because we actually haven't heard from him in a while. And I think this would have been a good opportunity for him to tweet out that Weston is open for people who are quarantined from the airport or something like that. I think this is a chance for a lot of leaders, and I keep saying this, to be heroic. They are wasting a chance to actually accrue political mileage for themselves, but at the same time helping a lot of people.
I think the resources.
He should be taking selfies like with chicken, like him rearing goats and stuff.
What's the winning headline?
Anyway, guys, move on. I think we award the winning headline to this. And so, on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the cartoons. Are they humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally effective or just plain lazy?
In the Standard, Gado has drawn a saxophone. At the end of the saxophone is Manu Dibango, who passed away on the 24th or the 25th of March. From the coronavirus, and he says, "Fare thee well, Makosa man, Manu Dibango, 1933 to 2020." Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up on Manu Dibango's music. My parents loved it, and Alus Mabele, who also passed away within a day of Manu Dibango.
Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I think we put that in the parking bay.
Yes, ozone. Caricature of Uhuru Kenyatta holding a big spanner. And next to him are the big wheels of sectors, transport, the economy, and health. And in between the teeth of these turning wheels is the coronavirus. Now, I am not sure whether Uhuru Kenyatta is trying to make the wheels continue turning, or he's trying to remove corona to ensure the wheels are still turning.
I think the second thing, he's trying to pry it out so that the wheels can continue moving.
Can you imagine what will happen when that virus bursts as it's squashed?
But then again, if you're an engineer, would you use a spanner to remove coronavirus, or would you use a spanner turning bolts and
But this is and maybe it's deliberate that he put a spanner there, because what he's telling us is it's from the phrase spanner in the works. So if he puts it there trying to pry it out, the spanner might get in there. And what happens when there's a spanner in the works? They stop moving. So because there's that chance that in the effort to remove corona, a lot of things, transport, the economy, and health, come to a halt. In the Nation, Ndula has drawn the Parliament buildings and a big padlock At the top of it, a locked one saying, "We'll be back after Corona." And he is saying, clearly lacking leadership in time of crisis. So Ndula is telling us that MPs are supposed to be in there sharing Corona.
Can you imagine? You know, MPs are the most social creatures in this country. I guess. In any country, you know, across the world. So you can't expect them to be in the house. They will spread the virus faster.
So what should they do? Because they're supposed to be legislating right now to...
they can legislate via Skype or TeamView.
Well, the president should suspend...
It's a rubbish cartoon. We just threw it.
Toss it. I think we awarded to the standard.
Manu Dibango.
Manu Dibango.
Fantastic. And so, what is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled A History of Intelligence and Espionage by Colonel John Hughes Wilson. And
which part are we looking at?
Today we're doing part 5.
Part 5.
Yeah.
I'll begin with the Sun Tay raid. This is a very interesting story. On the 21st of November 1970, at the height of the Vietnamese War, an elite force of American Special Forces crash-landed into Sun Tay, which was a prisoner of war camp in northern Vietnam. The raid was codenamed Operation Polar Circle, and their mission was to rescue 61 American prisoners of war, who Americans had gotten intelligence that these prisoners of war were being brutally treated in Sun Tay. So the operation actually played out like a movie. And according to the Americans, it was executed flawlessly, and it was a tactical success. So 56 Green Berets, these are the elite forces, were selected for the operation. They were divided into 3 groups, each with a different mission. The first was the assault group, which was called Blue Boy, and they would land directly inside the prison compound. The second was a 22-man command group called Greenleaf, which would land outside the prison camp and would blow a hole on the wall to give them support, the force that was in support. And then the third one was a 20-man group called Red Wine, which would provide security against the Northern Vietnamese when they respond. So the raid actually took the Vietnamese by total surprise. So the assault team landed at 2 p.m. in the prison compound, and they immediately started they opened fire. They started shooting guards. And one of the American officers took a bullhorn and announced, "Prisoners of war, we are here to save you. Lie down and we will come and get you." And then they just shot at the guards and started one by one going to the prison cells to extract the prisoners of war. The cells were empty. The prisoners of war had actually been moved 2 weeks before, not because the Vietnamese had received intelligence that this was going to happen, but because there was a plumbing problem. The walls were leaking, and so they just had to do it for logistical reason. Meanwhile, as these guys were inside there with no people to save, the second assault team were having problems of their own. They landed 450 meters south of the prison camp, right next to what the intelligence reports had said is a secondary school. But it was not. It was actually an army barracks full of well-armed Vietnamese soldiers. So the second part of the movie begins. They start shooting. Remember, there were 22 men. The book tells us, and actually history tells us, that the 22 men killed 100 Vietnamese soldiers. They opened fire and they killed them in 5 minutes.
My goodness.
Believable. I can imagine the kind of
what
weapons were they using?
So there's one, I'm sure they're using like a PK or a submachine gun that can do about
1,000
rounds,
bullets.
1,000 rounds a minute.
So as you can tell, this week, or rather this part is talking about intelligence fiascos. And that was the intelligence fiasco.
That was and it's not over yet, by the way. So, well, okay, perhaps the drama is over, but this is the author's interpretation of it. He says it was a tactical success. It was a tactical success because they did everything as they were supposed to do, number one. Number two, there were no American fatalities. In fact, there was only one casualty, and this was a soldier who was getting out of the chopper and hit his ankle against a fire extinguisher. That was the only injury the Americans suffered. But the Vietnamese had so much damage, with 100 people dead and a lot of their equipment destroyed. The Americans did have 2 aircrafts destroyed. So So they went back and reported that the mission was not, they didn't succeed in getting what they intended to do. But apparently they send a strong message to the Vietnamese that America will go to any length to extract its men and women from the battle lines. But the reason for the failure of intelligence is because intelligence was compartmentalized. Now the special group that was going to go out and carry out this rescue mission kept it under wraps. They were isolated to prevent leaks. Now other parts of intelligence who would have had the information, such as the prisoners of war have been moved to Hanoi, did not know that there was a rescue mission happening, so they didn't send that information. So it is from this compartmentalization where people were not in the loop that this disaster happened. So because the book is written by an American, he says it was successful, but in my view, it wasn't. The prisoners of war were not, number one, rescued, and Vietnam did not even release them thereafter.
Absolutely. And history records that although America won many battles, America lost the war in Vietnam, which ultimately is the case. The second fiasco that he notes is that of a disastrous American operation, yet again, to rescue American hostages in Iran after the Iranian Islamic Revolution of 1979. The aborted Operation Eagle Claw took place in April of 1980, in the sunset days of President Jimmy Carter's term. And he was under a lot of pressure to make sure that these Americans are released. So they put together a very ambitious but complex plan. Involving all the uniformed officers and services of the entire American army, including the FBI, including the CIA, and so on and so forth. And so the plan was to get a few choppers into the desert, a few tactical teams into the desert, a few intelligence officers into Tehran. But on the day before they were now to go into Tehran and release the captives, they, in the desert, they encounter a whole busload of Iranians coming down the road. Now, intelligence had told them this location is a very isolated location. It has nobody. But all of a sudden, they see a busload of Iranians coming down, and they have no choice but to now detain the entire bus full of passengers. So Iranians are shocked. These are Americans on our soil. What are they doing detaining us? And that's because they couldn't afford to compromise the mission. But a few minutes later, they see another caravan coming down the road with some smugglers who knew that they were now in for a hard time, so they decided to flee that scene. And that's the point at which they realized
they have to abort the mission.
We have to abort this mission. We're going to be sold out very soon. It also happened that they experienced mechanical failures through the aircraft. They had a huge bad accident where one aircraft blew up. And so basically the author says it was a combination of a lot of disasters. Intelligence-wise, it was a terrible location and let them down. But also because it involved the entire U.S. Armed forces. They were not able to execute it with a precision that it needed. He says that they ignored the cardinal principle when doing military operations of KISS, meaning keep it simple, stupid.
It's fantastic.
The end. The end of that intelligence fiasco. What's the next one?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Are you addressing me?
No.
Next one was the part he calls it Blair's dodgy dossier, and that's on Iraq 2003. And he says his thesis here was Tony Blair's premise for going to war in Iraq was flawed from the beginning. And the premise here was that Saddam Hussein harbored weapons of mass destruction, and he was in a position to attack the UK. All right, and he says that, you see, intelligence services across the Western world were aware that Saddam used chemical weapons on the Kurds, for example, or in the Iraq-Iranian war. But none of them could prove that Saddam Hussein actually had weapons of mass destruction. Now, there were three possibilities here after the Iraq war ended, and you know very well that the West did not find WMDs. So there were three possibilities he put down the book. He says he either got rid of the WMDs, that is number one. Yeah. Number two, he was hiding them. Or number three, all this time he was actually bluffing that he had them. Yeah. You have this superior persona in the Middle East that if you mess with Saddam Hussein, you will get it.
You're gonna get it.
All right. Now, this Russell man, John Hughes, he accuses the Prime Minister, Tony Blair then, the MI6, the Joint Intelligence Commission, headed by a guy called, I think, Scarlett, of doctoring intelligence assessments to prove that Blair was right to go to war. Now, guys, in my opinion, I find his argument a little bit moralistic. But before I say why it's moralistic, allow me to read his judgment on an indictment on Tony Blair. It says the indictment therefore follows logically, forensically, from Judge Hutton's much-dreaded inquiry, because there was a commission of inquiry to do to investigate the Iraqi war, that the intelligence on which the UK went to war was both wrong and was manipulated for political purposes by the civil servant John Scarlett, who was the head of the Joint Intelligence Commission, at the behest of Prime Minister Tony Blair and his Rottweiler press advisor, Alistair Campbell. You know, the guy with the funny hair.
Yes.
Intelligence laundering is a charge that ex-Prime Minister Blair and the once proud JIC will have to answer one day, because distorting intelligence, no matter for what purpose, is tantamount to treason. You see, there's a reason why I'm saying this is moralistic. By the time Western intelligence services are saying Saddam Hussein has WMDs, and that's the premise for them to go to war, and they know very well that he doesn't have WMDs, there's an objective. And the objective largely is money. Follow the money, you see where this is going. Yeah. And now to give a hypothetical position. You see, and it's a bit sensitive. When Kenya attacked or invaded or took its troops to Somalia, the premise was Al-Shabaab attacks, all right? But someone can come out and say that if Somalia was a stable republic, then Kenya would not be in the economic position it is right now. And you'd ask yourself, why? Because Somalia, for example, has the longest coastline in Africa. That means they can be able to get tourists, get cargo, have more ships dock on their coastline before they even get to ours. That means access to markets in Ethiopia, that means access to markets in Sudan, that means access to market in South Sudan. You can have an economic argument therefore.
So what you're saying is that it would be justified for Kenya to use false intelligence in order to destabilize the country and sabotage their economic ventures so that we can benefit. For
the single purpose that an unstable Somalia, hypothetically speaking, is economically beneficial to Kenya.
I beg to differ.
Hypothetical position.
We will tackle that another time. All right. So on a day that we had winning headline from the
Nation.
Daily Nation, as well as a winning cartoon.
Yes.
From the Standard.
From the Standard. Right?
Yes. I will remind you that we are on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Don't forget to subscribe as well to our YouTube channel. Have a good evening.